Hello everyone, my name is Jane and welcome to the fourth quarter anticipated releases. I can't believe that we are almost in the fourth quarter of 2022. Like, time is flying so fast. It's really crazy to believe. But today we are talking about happy stuff, because today I'm going to discuss the fourth quarter anticipated releases that I'm just so excited to film today. Basically, this year, every quarter, I'm doing an anticipated releases video where I'm sharing with you my most anticipated releases for this quarter, because I always try to look at new releases. I just really love new releases and like to anticipate books for months, because like this I'm just very excited to read them. And let me tell you, the fourth quarter is packed with so many horror, gothic, just creepy books that I believe are being released in this time of the year to be prepared for fall and for the spooky season. Basically, the months that I'm going to talk about today are July until September. So those months are the summer months, but I was very surprised to find out that a lot of anticipated releases in July and August are just spooky books, probably for the fall season and for the spooky season. Not everything is going to be spooky, but the majority of my anticipated horror reads are in this quarter, so I'm just very excited to share it with you. And before I'm going to start, and I'm going to talk about everything in the release order date, but before I'm going to start, I want to mention that I have a Goodreads list with all the anticipated releases. I'm doing this list every quarter, so I have a fourth quarter list. There is also some books that I'm not going to talk about today, and also I keep adding books when I'm seeing more new releases. So if you want to see an even bigger list of anticipated releases, you can check the Goodreads list. It will be in the video description, and maybe you can find more anticipated releases that you are going to be excited about. But yes, usually those videos are super long. I think that always I'm talking about almost 40 books, which is crazy. I tried not to make the list too long this time, because honestly I wouldn't read 40 new anticipated releases only for one quarter. So I just tried to pick my most anticipated releases and also the most popular anticipated releases. So I'm going to talk about everything today, and I think that let's just start with the first month, and this is July. July is my most favorite month of the year because it's my birthday month and I just love July. And in July there isn't a lot of anticipated releases that I'm waiting for, but there is 3 books that I'm really excited about. The first one is going to be in July 5th, and this is Below Zero by Ellie Hazelwood. Now, this is basically the 4th book in the Stamina Novels series, I think this is the name, and this is basically a trilogy that Ellie Hazelwood, the author of The Love Hypothesis, wrote. This trilogy is basically 3 novellas. It means that they are really short books, and we are following 3 best friends that are working in the tech field and in the science field, and basically every book is a different couple and a different story, so it's kind of like standalone romances just in a novella, in a very short story. I read only the first one so far, but the 4th one is the one that for me is the most interesting, and I will definitely be checking it out. And basically here we are following a NASA aerospace engineer, which sounds so cool, and she's basically doing a research in the Arctic region, like where it's really cold and really snowy, and she's getting injured there, and she's working there with her rival or something like this, and he's going to take care of her. So it's basically enemies to lovers. It takes place in a really snowy setting. It's supposed to be very isolated because they are in the middle of nowhere. So I'm definitely very excited about it. The only thing is that those are short novellas, so all the books are very short, but I'm going to listen to the second one in audiobook pretty soon, so I'm definitely going to get to the third one too. Now let's get to July 12th. I have 2 new anticipated releases in that day. The first one is The It Girl by Ruth Fair. Basically, this is an adult mystery story, and I read books by Ruth Fair in the past, and not all of them were my favorites. Also, one of them were really bad, but one of her books is one of my most favorite thrillers. And the thing is that I personally really love Ruth Fair's writing style, especially her new releases. I feel like they are really good, so I'm really anticipating her new release because I do feel like her writing is just getting better and better. And basically here we are following a girl that when she was in high school or college, I think college, college, she met her best friend, the it girl, who was basically the most popular girl, the girl that got everything that she wanted. And they had a lot of friends, but something happened and one of the friends got killed or something like this. And the current time of the story is basically a decade later. The main character of the story is expecting a baby with her husband, and there is a man that is sitting in jail for killing their friend. But then something happened and this man dies, but there is suspects that this man was innocent all of this time. The reason that I'm interested in it is because this is Ruth Ware's book. So I'm just really interested to see what she's going to do, and I'm definitely going to read it in audiobook because Ruth Ware's audiobook narrator is very, very good. Now, the second anticipated release in the same date is They Drowned Our Daughters by Katrina Monroe. Now, basically, this is, I think, YA fantasy horror. It's supposed to be supernatural, and basically we are supposed to follow some kind of ghost town, and we are following a family throughout 5 generations. And this family has some kind of curse that is related to the sea and to mermaids or something like this. And the reason that I'm so interested about this book is because when I was looking at more anticipated new releases, I saw someone talks about this book, and this someone said, I think it was in a YouTube video, that this book really reminds them of The Wicked Deep by Shah Earnshaw, which was my most favorite book of 2021. And it's basically very similar in the premise. We are following a coast town that is near the ocean. Like in The Wicked Deep, it was a port town. I think it's something similar in this book. And from the Goodreads reviews, it seems like this book is super atmospheric and just super horror gothic atmospheric. And for me, I love those atmospheric books, those horror atmospheric books when you feel like you are in the actual story and in the actual scene. Those are one of my most favorite kind of books to read. And from the Goodreads reviews, it just seems like the perfect book for me because I love atmospheric books. I love books that are set in water, and just from everything, it really reminds me so far The Wicked Deep, which again is my favorite book of last year. So I'm definitely going to check this book just because it seems like something that I would personally really love, and I'm just really dying to get into the atmosphere of this book and like to feel myself in the scene. So it's definitely a book that I'm very excited to check out. Now we're going to August, basically to the August anticipated releases. And August specifically is the month with the most anticipated releases that I found. And the first books are going to be released in August 2nd. And in this date, there is 2 books. The first one is The Book Eaters by Sonny Lin. Now, basically this book sounds so bizarre, and I'm not really sure what is going on in this book and like what is supposed to happen, because from what I know, we are basically following a family of book eaters. Basically people that are eating books, and then they are gaining all the knowledge that was written in the book just from eating it. And the thing is that the main character has a son, but her son is a mind reader, so it's basically the same thing but with eating humans' brains. And the same thing, when he eats a human's brain, he gains all the knowledge and all the experience and just all the personality of the human that he was eating. So it sounds to me like a weird zombie situation, but basically it just sounds like such a bizarre book, and this is the reason that I really want to check it out. It just sounds so weird, so bizarre, not something that I read before. Definitely very perfect for the spooky season because it's being released in August. It's like a very good way to get ready for the spooky season. Again, most of the books here I just feel like are being released before the spooky season to be here for the spooky season. So it's definitely a book that I'm sure that I'm going to read in the spooky season. It just sounds so bizarre but very interesting. And the second book in the same date is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shah Earnshaw. Now I said it, The Wicked Deep was my favorite book of last year, and this is going to be Shah Earnshaw's new release. Now the thing is that I'm not sure that I'm going to check it out, but I really wanted to talk about it because I'm still thinking maybe to check it. But basically it's supposed to be a fantasy horror standalone. I think it's part of the Disney series. Like I think that she's doing it for Disney, but I'm not sure. But the thing is that this book is based on the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, and in this movie there is the character Sally that is wearing Jack or something like this. So this is like the sequel of what is happening after the movie, and we are following Sally and how she is dealing with this marriage and everything. I really love Shah Earnshaw writing. Again, I'm not sure that I will check it because I didn't see The Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't really watch horror movies and stuff like this, so I'm not sure that I will check it out, but it looks very cool. It's like retailing, so if you love those kind of stuff, you can check it. I love her writing. I think her writing is so good, so I can recommend her writing. So this is not a book that I will check probably, but I'm still very excited that she's releasing more books because I really love her writing. Now on August 24th, we have more two anticipated releases, and first one is Love on the Brain by Ellie Hazelwood. This is basically the sequel of The Love Hypothesis, but we are following a different couple in this story. I already can't remember because I think it was a year since I read The Love Hypothesis, but we are following the character B, so I'm pretty sure that she was a friend of the main character of the first book or just something like this. But basically B is a neuroscientist that is working with NASA, another NASA book with Ellie Hazelwood, and she's basically co-leading some kind of project. I'm sorry for the angle change, but basically the main character is forced to co-lead this project with her enemy from grad school. So it's basically forced proximity and enemies to lovers, which sounds so good. And honestly, I'm so excited about this book because I really enjoy Ellie Hazelwood's novellas that she released so far. Like I read the first one, it was very fun to read, but it's not the same like a full-length book and a full-length romance story. And I'm really excited to check it and to see how writing evolved since The Love Hypothesis, because I do think it's going to be a very good book. Like I'm very excited about it and I believe that I'm really going to love it. And just the whole premise sounds so good, so I'm definitely very excited about it. And I think it's going to be a perfect summer romance to read to end the summer. Now, at the same date, there is going to be another book releasing. This is Babel, or The Necessity of Violence, an arcane history of the Oxford Translators Revolution by R.F. Kong. I'm not sure why there is such a long title. I'm just going to call it Babel because everyone are calling it Babel. But basically, R.F. Kong is the author of the popular trilogy, and she is releasing a new book, but it's not an adult fantasy, it's a dark academia story. Now, the thing is that I really wanted to mention it out. Before, every time that I read the synopsis, I'm getting really confused. Like, from what I'm getting, we are following some kind of man that is trying to learn to get into Oxford. So this is his journey or something like this. Honestly, I can't really explain what is going on in the book because I myself can't really understand it. But I know that this is a standalone novel and I'm sure that it's going to be a huge release because a lot of people are excited for this. So I really wanted to mention it. I know that I will be getting it. And yes, I think it's a very big release that you probably already aware of. Now, the next date is going to be August 30, and this is the date with the most anticipated releases. There is like a lot here, and all of them sounds so interesting. And let's start with the first one, and this is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a very well-known author. I read only 2 books by her, Evelyn Hugo, which I loved, and Daisy Jones and the Six, which I didn't love. So I'm very conflicted what I think about her stories because I read only 2, but I definitely really want to check more books by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this book sounds very interesting. It's basically an adult historical fiction, like I think most of her books. And here we are following a tennis player that retired after she set a really high record of something in tennis. And since then, 6 years has passed. And now suddenly there is a man that is taking her record and basically beating it. So she is deciding to go back into tennis after 6 years to basically gain her record back and like to be the champion once again. And I'm just very excited about it. Like I think that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes in general very good stories about famous people, and like I guess that this player is famous in the tennis field if she set a really high record of something. So I'm really excited to check it. I do think it's going to be interesting, and I personally really hope to love it, but it does sound like a book that I would like. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Now, the second book in the same date is a book that sounds so cool, and especially the cover is so pretty. I think this book has one of the prettiest covers of the 2022 anticipated releases, and this is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Now, this is basically another spooky book. It's a YA fantasy horror, like some kind of mystery or something like this. And basically we're following a 17-year-old orphan. She's basically going through a lot of families, but the thing is that every time that she's going to a family, her guardians are suddenly dying. I think the main character can talk with ghosts or something like this. And now she's going to some kind of family that this new family is much weirder than the previous ones, but just sounds like a YA horror fantasy, some kind of story. And like just based on the cover, it's a book that I want to check out because I think that the cover is so pretty, like such a pretty cover. Like it sounds cool. I do love YA horror stories or YA mystery stories, just more atmospheric books. So I do hope that it's going to be a book that I would like. And yes, it just looks so cool. Now I have another spooky book, and I think that this is one of my most anticipated releases of this quarter. And this book is basically Over My Dead Body by Sweeney Boo. Now basically the reason that I'm so interested in it is that this is a spooky graphic novel. I love graphic novels. If you are not new to my channel, you probably know that I love graphic novels so much, just really love them. And in this graphic novel, we're basically following a coven of witches. And like, I love books about witches. So it's also a graphic novel, it's also spooky, it's also about witches. It sounds perfect, but basically the main character's sister is getting disappeared. So the main character is trying to get her back, and it's just supposed to follow her and the coven of witches and what is going on. But again, it just sounds like the exact thing that I love in a graphic novel. And like, I love graphic novels. So it's definitely a graphic novel that I will be definitely reading in this spooky season. It just looks amazing and I'm so excited about it. And now the last release for this date, before we're getting to the September releases, is Daisy Darker by Alice Finney. Now this is basically an adult mystery thriller book. I read the Alice Finney book in the past and it was nice, like I enjoyed it. And basically the premise of this book sounds very cool because we are following Daisy Darker. Daisy Darker is the main character and her family are avoiding each other for years, but now for her grandmother's 80th birthday, all of them are getting back to the grandmother house and she's living in some kind of island. Just sounds like something isolated, and all of them are coming to this birthday party, but then the grandmother is getting killed in the end of the night. So this is just the story. It just sounds like an adult mystery thriller, but it sounds cool. Like, I do think that I'm going to check it out. It sounds like an audiobook that I will probably want to listen to. It just sounds very cool, so I will personally be checking it out. Now we are getting to the September anticipated releases, the last month of the fourth quarter, and the month that we are starting to get into fall and into the spooky season. I feel like all the anticipated releases are for this spooky season. Now we are going to start with September 6th, and in this date there is going to be 3 anticipated releases. Now the first one sounds so cool, and this is basically Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. Now Sally Thorne is the author of The 18 Game, which I still didn't read, but basically this is her new adult romance, but it's not a regular romance contemporary story, it's a spooky adult romance. And here we're basically following Angelica Frankenstein, and she's from the Frankenstein family, so she has a really rough time with getting love, and she really wants to find love and to find somebody to love. So this is just her story. It's supposed to be supernatural. I think it's also an historical, which is interesting. Like, I'm not sure if Sally Thorne wrote an historical in the past, but it's just supposed to be very gothic and very different, and it's very interesting to me to read a spooky book that is supposed to be a romance. So it's like supposed to be spooky and for the spooky season, but it's a romance. Like, in the end, it looks like the main genre is a romance. So it's definitely a book that I'm very excited to check out. Now the second anticipated release in this day is a book that I will personally won't check, but I really wanted to mention it, and this is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Now for me it's really hard to read Stephen King's writing because his writing is very old and like not very modern, and like it's my own personal problem because I really love modern writing. It's really hard for me to read books that reminds me old writing, but again, it's my personal problem. But the thing is that this is Stephen King, I think, first adult fantasy. It's not a horror. Like, Stephen King is the king of the horror genre, but this new release is not a horror, it's an adult fantasy, which sounds so different. I don't know what the premise and like what the story is about because I won't be checking it out. Again, I don't really enjoy Stephen King's writing style, and I'm not really into adult fantasy right now at the moment, but I really wanted to mention it because it's so cool that Stephen King is releasing an adult fantasy. Like, I think it's very cool, so if it's interesting to you, you can check it out. And the last release for this date is The American Roommate Experience by Elena Armes. Now this is the sequel to The Spanish Love Deception, which I read and like it was okay, but honestly I didn't really love it, so I'm not sure if I will be checking this book. Like, I will probably be waiting for the reviews. But basically here we are following the best friend of the main character from the first story, and this is a romance with her and with the cousin of the main character from the first story. But from what I get, it's just a false proximity story. I'm not sure why and what is happening. I just, again, really wanted to mention this book because I'm sure it's going to be a very big release because it's a sequel for a book that was super hyped up last year. So I'm not sure if I will be checking it out, but it's a book that I'm sure that a lot of people are really going to be excited about, so I really wanted to mention it out. We're almost over with the anticipated new releases, but the next anticipated release is going to be in September 14. And basically in this date, the anticipated anticipated release is again one of my probably most anticipated releases in this whole list. Like, I would say that this one and the graphic novel are my two most anticipated releases of this whole list. But this book is The Depths by Nicholas Perens. Now, this is basically a YA horror story. Again, like I love YA horror stories, perfect for the spooky season. But the thing is that this book is a tropical YA horror story. Tropical summery YA horror story. Like, you don't know how the summery tropical setting is going to go with a spooky and horror feel, but I'm dying to read this book. Like, again, one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I'm just dying to read it. Here we are basically following a teenager, and this teenager is forced to go to a vacation in the tropical island. This is a 2-week vacation for her mother honeymoon. Like, I guess that her mother is getting married again or something like this, but this is for her mother's honeymoon. They're going to a tropical vacation for 2 weeks in a tropical island, but then things are happening in this tropical island, and I'm just like dying to read it. I love books that are set in water, especially horror books. Like, it just makes it even more creepy. I love tropical books. I love YA horror books. Like, I feel that this is the perfect book for me. Again, I'm dying to read it. I do think that I'm going to like it. One of my most anticipated releases. I just really can't wait to read it, and I'm so excited for this book. And finally, the last date is September 27, and in this date there is a very interesting release, another release for the spooky season. And this book is Mere Mortals by Erin J. Lynch. Now, this book sounds so cool because this is a think YA, but this is a paranormal story about vampires. But the thing is that we are following 2 vampires that are 100 years old. I think that this is a brother and a sister, but I can be wrong about that. But basically 2 vampires, 100 years old, but suddenly they are becoming humans again. I'm not sure why. I don't want to make spoilers to myself. It's going to be explained in the plot, but basically they're just becoming humans again, and they are supposed to go now to high school. After 100 years of them living in the world, like being vampires, now they are supposed to go to high school and to be normal teenagers, like to live normal life. So it just sounds so cool to me, because usually I read books that it's like the other way around, like humans that are becoming immortal or becoming like vampires or some kind of a paranormal creature. But in this book it's the opposite. Like, we are actually following vampires who live the vampire lifestyle, and now they are becoming humans again, and they need to deal with it and like to learn how to be humans again. And like, I'm just so excited. I also think that also the title and also the cover, like this whole book intrigues me so much. I think that I'm going to like it. Like, I have high expectations for this book. There's something about the cover, the title, the premise. It really catch me, and I really want to read it. Like, I'm super excited about it. I feel like it's going to be another perfect spooky book to read in the spooky season. And yes, I'm very excited about this book. And yes, this was the 4th quarter anticipated releases for 2022. I think that this video is shorter than my previous ones. I really tried not to make this video too long, especially because in the past I was talking about 40 books in a video. I wouldn't check all of those 40 books, so I feel like it's just useless to talk about so many books. So I just wanted to talk only about the books that are only really interesting for me, or the books that are very popular, so I really want to mention them out. So I really hope that it's okay that the number is lower. And again, my Goodreads list is going to be in the video description, so like there is a lot of more books there that you can check if you are looking for more anticipated releases. But yes, I really loved filming this video and just looking for anticipated releases. I'm going to pre-order a lot of those books after I finish filming this video. Like, I'm just so excited about all of them. And yes, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what is your most anticipated release of the 4th quarter. Is it something that I mentioned here? Did you learn about a new book from this video? I really hope that you enjoyed and that this video was helpful for you. And yes, I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone.